Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before starting the video, please subscribe and keep watching for more detailed videos. From the moment the cameras started rolling on Haul Out the Halloween, there was a sense that Hallmark was doing something both familiar and refreshingly new. The beloved Haul Out the Holly franchise had built a loyal following around its themes of community, festive spirit, and romantic intrigue. Now, with this third installment turning toward Halloween, the production needed to ground its fantasy in places real enough to feel lived in and promise new surprises behind every jack-o'-lantern. Most immediately, the film was shot in Utah, a location choice that builds on Hallmark's tradition of returning to the Beehive State for its Evergreen Lane storylines. Casting calls posted by the Utah Film Commission and on local Facebook pages explicitly named filming around Salt Lake City, Sandy, Cottonwood Heights, and surrounding suburban areas. The very same neighborhoods used for the earlier Haul Out the Holly and Haul Out the Holly lit-up films were tapped again, giving continuity to the visual identity of Evergreen Lane. Production began in late spring, in May 2025, and wrapped by early June. A tight 3-week shoot that demanded precision in planning and flexibility of crew. The decision to film in Utah isn't just about aesthetics. The state offers a supportive film infrastructure, accessible landscapes, and a skilled local crew base. Moreover, Utah's suburban neighborhoods, especially those in Cottonwood Heights, presented ideal streetscapes to stand in for what we imagine when watching Evergreen Lane: close-knit, tree-lined roads, houses spaced just far enough apart for neighborly rivalry, but close enough for eye contact across yards. Zooming in, Cottonwood Heights in Salt Lake County becomes the likely real Evergreen Lane. Many reports point to that specific suburb as the anchor for principal photography. Scenes of trick-or-treating down the block, lawn decor battles, and porch interactions all appear to flow naturally in a suburban setting whose visual language supports warmth, comfort, and just enough quirkiness to suspend disbelief. Local residents in those neighborhoods have, in past Hallmark seasons, recognized familiar sidewalks, fences, and facades familiar from prior installments. The reuse of location fabric helps stitch together a sense of continuity across the trilogy. Behind the camera, the cast and crew leaned heavily on rapport and trust. Haul Out the Halloween sees the return of many original cast members. Lacey Chabert reprises her role as Emily. Wes Brown returns as Jared. Melissa Peterman is back as Pamela. Stephen Tobolowsky returns as Ned. And Ellen Travolta again appears as Mary Louise. The ensemble familiarity allows for an easy rhythm from day one, an advantage in a short shooting schedule. What sets this installment apart is the injection of new blood. Kimberly J. Brown and Daniel Counts join the cast as Luna and Marvin, a Halloween-obsessed couple who move to Evergreen Lane and spark a transformation of its identity into Everscream Lane. Brown is particularly noteworthy. Longtime fans know her as Marnie Piper from Halloween Town. Her and Counts' shared history brings a meta layer of nostalgia to their roles. Their chemistry is underscored by real life. In 2024, Brown and Counts married, making their on-screen union something of a joyful reflection of their off-screen lives. Chabert herself has described their casting as a dream scenario, longtime personal connections combining with narrative integration. One of the most touching behind-the-scenes stories involves Eliza Hayes Marr, who plays Jess, Emily's longtime friend. Marr gave birth not long before production began, and she chose to bring her newborn, Sully, onto set. She cut her maternity leave short so she could return to the production, leaning on the ensemble cast, especially fellow mothers, for support. According to her interviews, the neighborhood where filming took place was remarkably welcoming, letting her nurse in quiet corners between takes, and neighbors and crew alike stepped in as unofficial babysitters. The director, Maclean Nelson, was already a trusted friend, making communication and accommodations for parental needs smoother. That kind of personal care, when woven into the production culture, attunes the film to themes of community and support, values embedded in the story itself. From a narrative perspective, the setting of Evergreen Lane becomes more than a backdrop. It's a character in its own right. The gradual transformation into Everscream Lane requires visual consistency, so the set dressers and art department had to overlay Halloween embellishments onto already established suburban lawns without losing the sense that this is the same lane where Christmas light wars once raged. The familiarity of houses, Reoccurring fences, and known spatial relationships made those overlays feel organic, rather than cinematic stagecraft. You'll notice, as you watch the film, occasional telltale moments where the same front yard is used in two different scenes with different Halloween layouts. The flexibility of the location crew allowed them to flip decor and swap installations quickly. That efficiency speaks to the intimacy of filming in familiar terrain. The proximity of the houses, the ease of moving equipment between yards, and the capacity for night shoots all hinge on the production being able to rely on neighborhoods that welcome cameras. Many local residents had already grown accustomed to Hallmark crews in prior years, smoothing permissions and logistical access. Filming at night introduces challenges: lighting, power, continuity, and ambient noise. But in Salt Lake County suburbs, production was able to choose streets with manageable traffic and supportive neighbors. Those late hours made baby Sully's presence even more remarkable. The set became not just a shooting ground, but a semi-familial environment where cast and screen for his storytelling gifts reportedly contributed to morale during rap moments, entertaining castmates with anecdotes. The shared laughter, the small rituals between takes, and the emotional weight of doing something seasonal together after years of working long hours all reinforced a sense of camaraderie. Back to the cast. Lacey Chabert has long been identified as Hallmark's Queen of Christmas, having starred in numerous holiday films over the years. With Haul Out the Halloween, she steps into a holiday outside her usual wheelhouse. In interviews, she's admitted to feeling a bit like she's cheating on Christmas by embracing Halloween. Yet she also says the change was liberating, a chance to lean into playful spookiness instead of tinsel and snow. That tonal pivot is one reason casting Brown, Counts, and others who bring inherent Halloween sensibility makes sense. Wes Brown, as Jared, picks up the thread of HOA enforcer turned reluctant Halloween supporter. His character arcs across the trilogy, enforcing rules in earlier films, resisting crazy displays, but eventually embracing the shared spirit of community. The familiarity between Brown and Chabert helps make their back and forth feel grounded, not staged. Melissa Peterman's comedic timing as Pamela, Ellen Travolta's gentle eccentricity as Mary Louise, and Tobolowsky's deadpan deliveries all play off each other as an unknown ensemble. Those dynamics allow the film to breathe. Inside jokes, friendly jealousies, and small conflicts play out as both narrative and real interactions between actors who know each other. That familiarity pays off especially when the script calls for emotional beats, hugs, tearful apologies, spontaneous confessions, because the actors can stretch into those moments with trust in one another. One memorable anecdote shared post-production referenced a Wizard of Oz scene. Chabert had to keep a straight face while delivering a line about housing rules, which the cast teased was hard to do amid Halloween props, cackling neighbors, and spooky decor. Scenes like that show how the film delights in the tension between seriousness and silliness. The actors' comfort with one another makes those transitions smooth. Returning to location, it's worth noting how the Utah landscapes beyond the neighborhoods quietly sneak into some establishing shots: mountain silhouettes, deciduous trees, slanted light that hints at higher elevation sky, and clear autumn evening air. Utah's crisp late spring through early summer conditions allowed filming without extreme weather complications, yet still delivered that sense of open skies and clean backdrops. Behind the shots of neighbor-to-neighbor banter or trick-or-treat lines, you sometimes glimpse hills or distant peaks, anchoring the world beyond the street. In terms of set dressing, the art team faced a balancing act: go spooky enough for Halloween without turning the block into a haunted house caricature. The film negotiates that by mixing classic motifs, pumpkins, strings of lights, carved silhouettes, with the aesthetic worldview already baked into Evergreen Lane. The result feels additive rather than jarring. You sense Evergreen Lane has always been festive, now starting to show its dark side. Because the same houses and lawns appear across multiple films, the decorators had to map consistency. Which shrubs, which fences, which pathways would remain blank, which could be modified. That allowed continuity. When Emily or Jared walk from driveway to front door, the path, stoop, windows, and siding remain visually familiar, even if seasonal elements change. Crew logistics benefited enormously from the choice of filming in neighborhoods already used in earlier films. Equipment trucks could reuse prior staging zones, production offices could rely on known local resources, and line producers already acquainted with neighborhood homeowners reduced friction in permits and neighbor coordination. One recurring motif in cast commentary is how much laughter filled the set. Because these actors had worked together over multiple films, they could riff in ways that feel natural. On-camera confessions or emotional reveals were often followed by peals of laughter or behind-the-scenes chatting, and those bonds translated into scenes that feel easy, not forced. In particular, the bond between Chibert, Brown, Travolta, and Peterman reinforced a sense of this is a second home, rather than a temporary shoot. Another neat behind-the-scenes moment. On the day before wrap, many cast members were emotional. Some had to leave the next day for other projects, and the realization that this particular chapter of Evergreen Lane had ended made the closeness of the team all the more poignant. There's a line in interviews about how combining speech, emotion, humor, and community in a rap scene made it extra powerful. From a thematic lens, the fact that Hallmark chose to film a Halloween entry using the same locations as its Christmas-centered predecessors signals a confidence in place as much as story. Evergreen Lane is less a flexible set and more a world. Viewers familiar with earlier movies will detect echoes. A tree named by Chibert in the first film, fences she once leaned against, walkways she once strolled, now overlaid with spiders and skeletons. That layering rewards long-term viewers. As the premiere date approached, October 11, 2025, promotional material leaned into the nostalgia factor. Brown, Counts, and others teased their shared pasts, behind-the-scenes dynamics, and how filming in Utah gave them both creative control and emotional safety. The premiere marked the shift from snowy garlands to broomsticks and cobwebs, but in the same lane, under the same sky. In watching Haul Out the Halloween, you can sense how place, people, and story interlock. The lane you see is not a generic block. It's Evergreen Lane as you already know it, now decorated for October instead of December. The cast is not just playing familiar roles, but they are playing to each other's strengths, histories, and friendships. The production leaned on location continuity, cast trust, and thematic unity to make the film feel like the natural next step in a trilogy, and the visual consistency of Utah, especially Cottonwood Heights and surrounding Salt Lake suburbs, anchors the fantasy. When viewers ask, where was Haul Out the Halloween filmed? The answer is straightforward. In Utah, in Salt Lake County, and environs. But it's not just geography. It's the reactivation of a cinematic neighborhood, re-illumined for Halloween. And the cast stories, braving newborns on set, longtime friendships, shared laughter, emotional rap days, all infuse the film with warmth and authenticity. As you watch Emily, Jared, Luna, and Marvin jockey for spooky decor supremacy, remember, under those pumpkins and skeletons lies a familiar street, and behind each camera angle lies a team that's turned filming into home. Come back to our channel for all your updates. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel.